This is the ReadSoft Online logon area. So now let's log into the system. At the top of the screen, you can see there are tabs. These tabs are, the Upload tab here allows you to drag and drop or browse to find images or files to upload to the system, and they can come in many formats, from JPEG, PDF, TIFF files, and many more. The Receive tab allows you to be able to see what is being processed at that moment in time. So it's what has come into the system but is in between the receiving point and the data actually being extracted. At this point, the system checks the quality of the image, so the system can actually process the data, and it also checks that it is the correct file type. The next tab is Verify, which is the next stage after the data has been extracted in the Receive tab. This happens automatically when an image is uploaded into the system, and once ready, it will be placed into the Verify tab. This is where you will validate and verify that the information that has been extracted off of the image is correct. The Explore tab allows you to view what is currently within the system to work on and what stage they're at. We also have the Storage tab, which allows you to see all images that have been uploaded into the system, which also gives you the ability to do a duplicate check before it is sent through to your target system, which in this case is NetSuite. In terms of security, ReadSoft Online is based on Windows Azure servers, so it has a direct connection to their cloud servers based in Ireland. We also have the same server over in Asia Pac in Malaysia and another over in the USA. Each one of those servers also has a backup server, which means that you get guaranteed uptime of 99.5% 365 days a year. One of the other features that you have on the home page is Help Documentation. This is useful for onboarding new users to the system. Not only do you have information about the system requirements and overviews, you also have short video clips that show you how to use the system effectively. Now we're going to upload some images into the system.
Now,
there are two ways to get images into the system. Firstly, you can highlight the images you want from the folder and drag and drop them onto the system. Or you can browse to a folder from within the system and add them that way. You can also use our network-enabled scanner, which ties in directly to the system. It is a standalone scanner, and it doesn't require any other hardware for it to run. Invoices are scanned and sent securely into the system directly. You can also receive images into the system via email in a variety of formats: PDFs, PNGs, JPEGs, and many more. Or you can forward emails you received straight into the system. One other way to do this, if you're not using the ReadSoft scanner, is to use an application called ReadSoft Online Connect, which is a small application that can run on your local server. Simply put, it is a folder structure you can scan your images to and then upload them into the system from there. Let's start the system. These images have now moved from the Upload tab into the Receive tab. We can see the images here now, which are currently going through the data extraction stage, to make sure the images are readable and that the data can be extracted correctly. So now they have disappeared and moved into the Verify tab after the data has been extracted. So let's go into this first image from Spark Minder. So you can see the thumbnail of the image here on the left, and in the center at the top you can see the actual image of the invoice itself. Now if we zoom in, you can see the individual line items. On the right hand side here, you can see that the header items have been captured successfully with all green ticks. So the supplier information has been found and verified using the master data from Sage Line 50 and automatically populates the supplier number from that integration. It's also picked up the fact that this is an invoice and not a credit note due to the word invoice being found on the image. It's picked up the invoice number as well and checks this against the data that is already within your Sage system to confirm that there are not duplicates within the system. It's picked up the date here and converted it from text to a numerical format. It's also picked up the order number, net value, VAT rate, VAT value, delivery cost, and total gross value. You can see here that it has picked up the line item values, so we can see the quantity, part number, which is the product code, total value, and the unit value. The system then calculates the net value of the invoice overall. The reason the system does this is to allow you to amend any mistakes or missed line items within the invoice, and it also validates that the net value adds up correctly. So now we can click OK, and now it moves into the approval process. This starts by registering the invoice with Sage Line 50, which this invoice is currently undergoing. Once it has registered in Sage, it now says Document Approval in Progress. So you can see here under Workflow, it says invoices over £10,000 in value. This means that the invoice has been assigned to Kevin Green, as he is the user who approves invoices that have a value of over £10,000. So if I log out from here and go into my email, I can see an email that has been generated by the system to alert Kevin that there is an invoice that needs approval. It shows Kevin the name, value and invoice number. So now we'll head back to the system and log in as Kevin. You can see that Kevin's view on the home page is slightly different. This is because each user has certain rights and privileges set out when their account is created. So we can see that Kevin has a number of invoices to approve. So let's head in and approve the invoice that we just sent through. So here we can see a list of invoices that Kevin has to approve. The timer icon here means that the maximum duration limit has been exceeded, so it is a reminder that the invoice needs approving as soon as possible. So at the top of the list is our invoice from Spark Minder, so we'll start the approval process now. You can see automatically that the system has now brought across the data values captured from the invoice, and the image of the invoice itself is here on the left. But also, the system has brought in the accounting information from the integration that it has with Sage Line 50. So it has calculated the GL accounting code, the tax code, and also the line item details that we captured from the invoice shown here. So if we head into Sage Line 50 now and pick out Spark Minder, head into Activity, and I can sort the information by date. And you can see that the last invoice to be processed was the 19th of February, and our invoice was dated the 2nd of March. So you can see that the invoice has not yet gone through to Sage, but it has been registered, which means that ReadSoft Online can pick up some default values. So here it has picked up 5,000 for the nominal code, T1 for the VAT rate, T1 for the VAT rate, etc. And this is because ReadSoft Online has recognised the name of the company Spark Minder and pulled that information from Sage Line 50. So back in the system, we can see the details that have been pulled through from Sage, so the account codes and the debit for the amount going out. If there is an incorrect value here, so if I change this value here to have 10p on the end, it will flag up the error to the user. So we can't pass through too high or too low a value, it has to match the value that has been extracted from the invoice. So let's set this correctly now. And from this point, the approver will check that all the information is correct and make any necessary amendments to the data values. Here is the information that has been extracted from the invoice. You can also add any comments in the system which anyone who will be dealing with this particular invoice can see and add to. They will have a small orange notification icon visible in the Comments tab. Here in the History tab you can see the audit trail details for the invoice from receipt all the way through to approval. So now we'll approve this invoice. So it has moved out of Kevin's approval list now, and if we check our email we can see that there is a notification email waiting in the inbox for the next approver, Pat Black. So now we'll head back into ReadSoft Online and log in as Pat Black. On the home page you can see that the view is slightly different again, because different rights and privileges determine what you see in your view. So let's head into the Approval tab. So you can see at the top, the invoice from Spark Minder, which we approved with Kevin, has now been passed on to Pat to be approved. So now we'll start the approval process with Pat. This time we can't make any changes because Pat is just the final approver and doesn't have those rights, so the value boxes in the tabs here are greyed out. If we look in the Comments tab, you can see that the comment we added earlier from Kevin is there, and in the History tab we can see the full audit trail with all the latest actions that have been taken. So now we will approve the invoice. So it has moved out of Pat's approval queue, and we look in the Explore tab, the invoice from Spark Minder is at the top here, with the status of Post in Progress. If you remember earlier, the status was firstly Registration in Progress, in order to pull the necessary data from Sage Line 50, and then Approval in Progress for Kevin and Pat to check and approve the invoice. Now the invoice has disappeared from this view. So now if I change the view here to Successfully Processed, we can see that the invoice is now at the top of this list. If I open it up and check the document history here, I can now see that the invoice has been successfully posted into Sage. So we'll head back into Sage Line 50 now to see that the invoice has been successfully received. So here under Activity, we can see that the invoice from Spark Minder has been successfully received by Sage Line 50, and that all of the line items that were captured are present, as well as the account coding and credit and debit values. So here in the Memo tab, we can see at the top of the list is our invoice, with the naming convention that includes the supplier name and the invoice number, making it easy to spot. And if we double-click this invoice, we are taken to ReadSoft's online storage, where the invoice is now securely stored for ease of reference.